Well, in January and February, um, I, I I can only say it was a difficult start to this year, and alongside of that, I was trying to figure out, well, where do I start reading in the Bible? I just didn't know, and so for whatever reason, I went into Psalm 31, and I read that, and it was kind of alongside of shame and just frustration, some difficult times. But it was interesting because I just stayed in that psalm. I wasn't really motivated to go stretch out into other places in scripture. I just stayed there. And I think there's a connection between my pain and my struggle and not moving too quickly onto another psalm or another chapter. And so I just hung out there and I hung out in Psalm 31 for probably about 75 days. Just every day I would read it, and I would read it slowly. And I think I stumbled upon something that was real, that was a powerful practice of just slowly reading, not running through scripture. And sometimes in January I'll start reading the the 1 year Bible, and there's such a place for that, and I've done that. But about in April, early April, about now is when it just tires me out and I stop reading at that point. But Scott McKnight said something that really goes alongside of this slower reading of Scripture. And he said, we must connect a sense of God's presence with reading His Word. And so I really try not to run through Scripture. Actually, I try to walk through Scripture, even with a willingness to stop and to stay with a phrase or with a word. And I've realized if my soul is hurting, this is fitting for my healing and my recovery. Just like a sprained ankle, I'm not gonna hustle around town on a sprained ankle. I'm gonna slow. I'm gonna even stop and rest and sit with certain scriptures. And Good Friday, interesting thing about Psalm 31, Good Friday has me remembering Jesus' last statement right before He died. He said, Lord, into your hands I commit my spirit. And so that's from Psalm 31. And it makes me wonder if that psalm was on the mind of Christ Himself. And it makes sense because in that psalm, there's a lot. David talks about being surrounded by an enemy. He talks about being shamed, and people are chattering and talking about him. And there's a loss of strength there in Psalm 31. And so, when Christ was on the cross, people would say, save yourself, and I hear that also in Psalm 31, that there is an end to that idea of saving yourself. And in Luke, as Christ was on the cross and as He died, Luke says that the sun darkened, that the temple curtain tore from top to bottom. The old system was deconstructed, and a soldier was transformed. And so Christ died for us. I mean, he died for the pain of the world. He died for broken hearts. He removed the obstacle of sin. But we also died with Christ. And I think that pain that we have in life is a death-like experience. It is our way of the cross. It's a smaller cross, but it is our way of moving through this world with God. And so we don't need to hustle. And I think that informs how we read Scripture. I really don't. For me, especially in January and February, I just learned that to run through Scripture is not the way of recovering from pain. And so in January, February, I just remember locking into that verse 5, into your hands I commit my spirit. And that phrase was super helpful because it allowed me to begin to pray, kind of pray that phrase, and even putting in different things that instead of my spirit. So I would say, and pray, into your hands I commit my kids. Into your hands I commit my daily tasks. And so it gave me a handle to carry that phrase into my everyday life. And that was just super helpful, super helpful. It helped me transform my pain. And so the second part of that verse, it's like there's hope and there's resurrection. The second part of the verse actually says, you redeem me, O Lord, faithful God. So into your hands I commit my spirit is kind of like death. It's like Good Friday. And then that second part is kind of like Sunday. It's like Easter. You redeem me, O Lord, faithful God. And so Psalm 31, it points out this idea of even though I am surrounded like a besieged city, yet God reveals his wondrous love. And there's joy, this divine, otherworldly joy that is accessible to me even in difficulty. And there's another verse that I love in Psalm 31 that talks about we are placed in an open field. We are not in bondage. We are free. And that is brought about in me an authentic adoration. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. Now, the pain doesn't always go away, and I still struggle with shame and different things that, but now I feel like there is an intimacy like Scott McKnight talked about. There is a connection with God's presence as I read the Word. And so I'm learning to read slowly. I'm learning to read with a waiting heart and to be watchful and to pay attention to the resurrection life. And so may it be so for you that on this Good Friday that you will learn to connect Christ's presence with your pain and struggle. And may you too be watchful for new life, for resurrection life. For it's Friday, but Sunday's coming.